Hi everyone, Tuesday the 25th of March 2025. So just published the 2000 mile service video on the Rocket 3, so following up on that. This is the falling morning, just to show that the battery is now fully charged. I'm waiting on the full flow oil filter to arrive, but I've got a call out to Matt Harmer, who lives down the road, who's got a few triples, and just asked if I can, if he can lend me one that I can replace when mine arrive, and hopefully we'll get it today. And the reason being that I'm trying to get the bike ready for a possible run out on Thursday in a couple of days' time, to provide a BSA escort to an old BSA aficionado whose funeral it is, fairly local in Leicestershire. So want to try and support that if I can, and give the bike a ride out as well. So that's the plan. So there might be a bit of a lull before the next clip, waiting for this oil filter. Next morning, hooray, the full flow oil filter's arrived. Right, we can crack on, install one of those, put the oil in, kick around a bit, and then we'll get the spark plugs in, and then we'll lower the bench and see if she fires up. Better check if some petrol in it as well. Right, there's the full flow oil filter pushed in, and there is a bit of resistance going in and out, and I've realised it's where there's a join in the cases. There's a little tiny bit of a ridge on one side, and that sort of smacks really that maybe, possibly, sometime in the life of this motor it's had one of its what would it be, its right hand case changed, i.e. they're not a sort of machined matched pair. Well, everything else seems to be all right crank wise and stuff like that, so let's not just ponder on that too long. Anyway then, back to finishing this off. So you've got to give the cap a little bit of a bully up, haven't you? I've got a new O-ring to put it on as well. I haven't changed that for a little while, and that's the spring that provides the pressure on the end of the full flow oil filter, so it ensures it's tight and flush at the far end where the I think it's the feed is. Anyway, to ensure that the oil goes through the filter rather than bypasses it, it's got to be absolutely flat and tight on the far end. Right, let's put the cap in. Right, all done. Next we can lower the bike and get the oil in, give her a kick around. Well, in between getting the oil circulating again, having put some in the tank, thought I'd do a bit more checking around and a bit of cleaning up under the seat here, because it's not off very often, and get a bit of polish on these parts is useful. And I've noticed another couple of things checking around. Now, those of you that have followed the channel for a while will know that I've had this bike quite a long while, and I didn't restore it, but I've had to do a lot to it, both tidying it up cosmetically. Generally cosmetically it's a good job, but I had a bit of tidying up to do, and then quite a bit to do in the engine, but still finding bits and pieces, you know, that aren't right. So first thing is that I was just bullying up the tank, and this you know, centre cap here to hold the tank down by the centre bolt, it was a bit loose. So anyway, I've taken it apart and realised that the spacer tube that sits underneath here was too long, so it's clamping down on the spacer tube before it was actually tightening up, you know, firming up on the tank. And it was obviously a homemade bit of tube. It's okay for the job, so I cut 1/4 of an inch off it. Beautiful job, no problem at all. just got to make sure that you don't overdo it and that you start tightening down on this too much, because you can start depressing the tank, which you don't want to do that. And then the other thing, just polishing up the back mudguard here while the seat's off. And I was thinking, there's 2 holes here. Hang on a bloody minute. There's supposed to be a bracket across here, I think. And that's not there. So, I mean, last year, when I went over to Mallory Bike Fest to display the bike on the Trident Rocket 3, in the Trident Rocket 3 enclosure, it was a bloody god awful day, and I was just wondering, when cleaning up around here, why there was, you know, quite a bit of muck in here, and it's coming through these holes, so I've got to sort that out. So let me just have a quick look. Let's dig out the parts put while we grab a cup of tea, and we might have to order one of those up. And in the meantime, we'll just put a bit of tape over these holes for now, so that if we do encounter any bad weather on any ride outs, then we're not going to be spraying muck and filth all over the electrics there, which are plumb line in the fire. Well, I've looked through the book, not just on this page where I would have expected it, but all the way through it, and I can't find any reference to a bracket that would go across there between the eyes for the top shock mounts. One thing I did find though, that's an engine guard, engine shield. Well, I don't think we've got one like that. Your Rocket 3 had one. Definitely no engine shield there. Doesn't say it's an optional extra. Anyway, that's one to look out for in the future. And the other quick thing I just wanted to show you as well while we're in the book. If we get to the tank, there we go. So that's the sort of spacer tube that I mentioned was too long. What do they call it? Number 4. Yeah, spacer tube. A homemade one that was a bit too long. And that's to prevent you over tightening this onto the tank and crushing and distorting the tank, which makes sense. Right. Where are we now? Oh yeah. Back to doing a bit of bullying while we're getting the oil round. Although I forgot to mention then, well, you know, what is this guard for then? I don't know, is it, could it be also used for another model like the twins? Don't know. Anyway, we've got to block these with something. There's plenty of space underneath. I don't think, I mean, the obvious thing would be to use a rubber grommet, but as you can see, they're elongated holes. They're not round. But just putting a grommet in there will be better than nothing. You know, blind-ended grommet. Let's see what we've got. I think the bigger one of those two should do it. As he drops one. See if we can squeeze it in there. Well, no, I was wrong. It's the smaller one. Fits in there pretty well. Maybe just a little tiny bit of a crack at that end. It'll shove it up a bit. But anyway, anything's better than nothing there at all to keep the shit out. Okay, apologies for the unsteady hand, but anyway, ignition on. There's the oil pressure warning light. And we'll kick the oil through, so we're getting oil pressure. So, ignition off. We'll get the plugs in. I did check spark, so that's okay. That's why there's a plug in there. Get some fuel in her, and we'll give her a cold start. Right, plugs in, fuel on. Need a bit of a tickle. Cold start. choke on. Carbs are tickling well. That usually indicates that the float height's okay, really. Right, I haven't primed it. Let's give it a go. Ignition on. Just put the ignition back on. It's going to take a while. There we go. So it's holding its oil pressure pretty well. Should do with new oil. Well, I am more than happy with that. Bloody over the moon. God, what a difference. You can see there was one or two arcs here, but that's normal on points. You'll never have a situation where there's none. And I know some of you say, what the hell are you doing messing about with points still? Well, I'm all for trying to run things as originally specified, really, I suppose. And I know electronic ignition, they can run better and it's supposed to be more reliable, but that's not my experience. When I bought this bike, it had a Boyer Branston 3 on it, and it failed, and it left me stranded, because once the box goes, all 3 cylinders go. And similarly on the B25 SS, when we first started riding that, the regulator failed on that. It didn't have its backup capacitor in that had all been removed because it had electronic ignition. That failed, left me stranded. Now on the B25 SS, if the points failed or anything failed on that, it's a single point of failure. But I have had a coil fail on this, stroke condenser, but of course 2 cylinders left. It got me home 10 miles. Anyway, it's no excuse, I know. In general, I agree. They run better with electronic ignition. But you can see I ran a T160 on points. That was my first triple. Bought it in 1977, had it for 5 years, never had any trouble. Had a Hurricane for 18 years, never changed the points. So we'll crack on. Thank you for those that suggest getting up to date, but I think we'll plough on as is, and it seems to be running fine to me. And in fact, the points were the issue. Just need a little bit of a re-gapping. Other than that, no probs. Right. All I'm going to do now is put a bit of oil down one or two of the cables at the top, you know, where the water can get in, and do the tyre pressures. Now, somebody came up with, was it Keith, came up with a valid point that these modern replicas don't have such stiff sidewalls, and therefore it's recommended that you run them at higher pressures. Well, we'll see how we go. Standard is 22 front, 28 rear, and you can tell, you know, if the front's not quite right, because when you start going over white lines and certain surfaces on the road, it skits around a little bit, and it's easy enough to tell at the bars. So we'll kick off with the standards and we'll go from there. Right, bit of tidying up, seat back on, bit more bully. Points cover on, seat on. She's back up in the air for a bit more bully, and obviously the obligatory bit of touching up for the odd chip. The Dove Grey on this bike isn't quite factory. It's a bit lighter. You won't be able to tell in this light between that and the Fury, but believe me, it is. So I've got Dove Grey paint, but I've got to mix a bit of white into it to make it a bit paler for this, but it works all right. So yeah, moral of the story is when you buy an alleged full restoration, don't assume everything will be rosy. Right, that's about it then. The reason why, one of the reasons why I've spurred into action getting this ready for the season pretty early on is because there's a gathering of BSA Owners Club members tomorrow in South Leicestershire to act as a what the hell would you call it? To accompany a long-time BSA Owners Club member who recently died and whose funeral is tomorrow. So I think his wife's asked for as many people as possible to turn on those motorcycles and to accompany the cortege, I think. So that's what we're doing. Right, so yeah, just a bit more bully up to do. I'll give you another snapshot of it once it's clean. I mean, it looks pretty clean now, but it just needs a bit of brightening up, and we're done. So thanks very much for watching, everybody. Thanks for subscriptions and your interest and any comments. And I'll see you all again soon. I might get some pics stroke footage of the ride out tomorrow. Let's see. Okay, cheers. That'll do. She's ready.